I'm Bryan Falchuk, recapping ITC Vegas 2024, and this is the future of insurance.
I'm just about to leave ITC. Long day yesterday, recording lots of episodes. I think I got 10 interviews in, maybe 8 that will air. A couple of them we just talked, and it was really cool and inspiring and insightful. And before that, the first day or the pre-day for ITC, I was really lucky to get to take the stage a couple times. Clara Analytics with Ernix, very cool conversations to help push the industry forward, and it's great seeing packed rooms for both of those. That means people are taking in the idea of innovation, inspiration, change. That is kind of the whole reason why you'd come to ITC. So I thought I'd do a quick recap on what I found this year at ITC 2024. Interestingly, looking at kind of the expo, the exhibit hall, it felt much smaller. I don't think it was, but they changed the way they laid things out into more of these neighborhoods, and that just made it easier to kind of navigate. And I think that actually made it feel like more intimate. It's not intimate, it's massive. We're like thousands of people, but just relative to the kind of sprawl and expanse and almost confusion of like running from booth to booth and not being sure what you're going to see, it made it easier to navigate in a lot of senses. I was really lucky. I got to be in one of these little podcast booths that they had set up. So you'll see that in a number of episodes coming forward. Shout out to Legal Motion, whose podcast booth I happen to be sat in the whole time. Love that companies were helping to support those of us who are trying to put out content, inspiration, excerpts from these events that not everyone can go to, or maybe you went and you didn't get to catch everything, or you want to hear more about it. It's great to be able to do that. So I'm thankful for that opportunity, and thank you to ITC for helping to secure that space for me. And it was kind of hectic with so many people trying to record while they're here. But for me, I talked to a lot of great companies, founders, CEOs, folks running insurance businesses within different parts of bigger organizations. Saw a lot of really cool things. I saw the Afeela, the Sony Honda mobility vehicle. It's like super connected, AI driven. They tied into an insurance offering as well, but they had that on display. I'm a car nut, so I've been watching that vehicle as it progresses through all the car shows, and it makes the media run on the car side. So it's cool to actually see the Afeela in person. Personally, I'm not totally sold that this is a thing that will succeed or has a purpose. A lot of the stuff they talk about to me is kind of more gimmicky, and I'm not sure that I would ever go to choose a vehicle because of that offering versus anything else. But it's interesting. We'll see. I love being wrong, so maybe it'll be super successful, but I think there are ideas in it that could play out into other vehicles. And the core and the reason why I was here was around not just autonomy, but connectivity. And of course, that's going to tie to your insurance offering because there's data. There's a question of whether the vehicle's driving or you're driving. Like, these are all live discussions that are in their infancy, but will be much more front and center as the auto industry moves forward and the auto insurance or motor insurance industry moves with it. So that was interesting for me to see, just as a car nut and insurance geek, kind of fit my my fancy perfectly. But one of the things that really stood out, and you couldn't miss it, obviously, was AI. It was talked about everywhere. Last year we had a lot of AI, but we also had a lot of talk of embedded. People weren't really talking about embedded as much this year, though I think it's sort of as active as it was last year. It's just not the buzzword that people are interested in and care about, so we didn't hear as much about it. One of the things that left me feeling a bit flat about the talk around AI was the extreme focus on efficiency, and I think we on the industry side, on the carrier side, are to blame for that, because it's what we tend to dig into. It's something you can size up really quickly and easily, and you can prove out. So we chase efficiency. We chase tools that will let us cut costs, cut people, cut steps in a process. And that's fine, but then we miss out on the opportunity to improve our underwriting results. And if you look at 2023 and what we've seen so far in 2024, efficiency, expense ratio is not the problem. We need to care about it. We should, pay attention to it and try to drive it down where we can. But actually, we're losing sight of the fact that the loss ratio is out of control for many lines of business. And the tools we use to deal with it are short-term tools. Jacking up rates, it's not long-term sustainable because you end up pricing yourself out of the point of affordability, and people will seek alternative solutions if they have them. Or we retrench, we pull out, but that's not long-term viable either, because then you run out of places to compete in. We need to look at tools like AI that help drive better underwriting results and better loss outcomes. And what was really interesting for me, one of the conversations I had off camera with a founder of an AI-driven data solution that helps carriers, They never lead with underwriting results in any of their conversations. They actually don't even talk about it. They say your loss ratio will stay the same. We drive better efficiency. And what he told me is actually the loss ratio does not stay the same. It does get better. And they've seen that in every one of their clients. And I was like, well, why aren't you talking about that? And he said, the carriers don't want to hear it. They don't engage with it. It doesn't sound reasonable to them. They don't believe it. And so they would dismiss the solution when just talking about efficiency, you'd get in the door. And it kind of broke my heart to hear that. I totally understand him. There's nothing wrong with his positioning on it or his company's. The issue is us as an audience. So the main thing I want to drive in this recap is less a blow by blow recap of I saw this, and this is cool. And, I scratched my head about this, is more using this as a challenge to the industry. If we're gonna allow for the buzzword of AI to consume our thoughts and our conversations, we need to make sure that that conversation is about the heart of the industry, which is the underwriting results, the loss outcomes, the claims handling and the claims decisioning and the way we manage those claims, and not just about efficiency. Care about efficiency, care about your expense ratios, nothing wrong with that. Don't make poor financial decisions, of course. But we have to get back to the core of our business if we actually want to perform better in the long run. I was lucky enough to work in specialty lines for 10 years. Specialty lines, especially when you get to Lloyd's, is about expertise in underwriting. And that was such a wake up for me, is seeing how deeply people cared about their underwriting results. And I fear that a lot of the focus on AI for efficiency's sake, because it's an easier sell and it's an easier thing to get approval for internally, misses the whole point of why we exist as an industry. So my takeaway from ITC is some amazing solutions, great conversations, of course, the networking, the chance to see so many incredible people all at once. That's why I passed out at like 8:30 last night. I was so tired from all of it. These are the things we should be using to drive better outcome for our industry and not just the quick wins. We are actually a long-term industry, so we should be focused on those long-term results, right? So that's my recap of ITC. I hope that that's interesting. If you disagree with me, awesome. Post a comment about it. If you agree with me, awesome. Post a comment about it. The point is we need to talk about this stuff and challenge each other and get into the conversation and see not I'm right, you're wrong, but how might we learn from this conversation we're having or this alternative view on it? Or, yeah, maybe I do need to rethink how I'm looking at things. That's how we push forward. So if you missed ITC, it was awesome. It was what it always is, right? It's just a massive number of people talking about a lot of really cool things that matter in the industry, a lot of deals, a lot of networking, a lot of meeting with partners. That's incredible. It's very hard to replicate this level of that activity anywhere else in such a small space, small set of time. It reminds me of what happens in Lloyd's, where it's like everyone you need to see is within a couple of blocks of each other. That's very cool. Lots of vendors, lots of interesting solutions. That's nothing different. Huge exhibit hall, lots of conversations and presentations and sessions. All that's the same. For me, it was AI was the only real buzzword out there, and it kept taking that efficiency tone. I think that was a miss. And I think that's a miss on us as an industry, and we should do better. So to the AI solution providers out there, don't be afraid to talk about underwriting results. Have your data to back it up. Especially if you have the data to back it up, you should be talking about that. And on the carrier side, we should be willing to listen to that underwriting, that loss conversation with a much more open mind and a recognition that that's actually why we're in business. And if we can make that core perform better, then we really succeed. Shaving points of expense ratio is not a material advantage in the long run. It is better underwriting for better results, for better outcomes. So let's take that challenge going forward. I hope that's valuable. If you missed ITC, maybe you come in the future. It is an interesting event. I think it's something that if you can come to it, it's really valuable for your career and your time in this industry. If you missed it, eat content like this all you can to try to understand, what was going on and how can I be smarter and better for what's coming out of that, even if I didn't make it. Hope that's valuable. See you in a series of interviews I'm going to be putting out from the show over the next few weeks. Thanks, everyone.